Can I play for a meal? They laughed until they heard this piano genius at midnight. It was a cold night in the heart of the city. Traffic snarled like a beast, and the air crackled with the tension of countless lives, each bursting with stories. The neon lights flickered against the dark, casting ghostly shadows on the pavement. There was something in the air that felt alive, electric, as if the very universe was holding its breath, waiting for something extraordinary to happen. In a rundown diner named Immerses, a thin figure stood at the counter, hands trembling with desperation. His name was Leo, a scruffy musician with an old backpack slung over one shoulder. He carried a melody trapped inside, begging to leap out and dance. As he approached the grinning proprietor, he mustered up his courage and asked, "Can I play for a meal?" Laughter erupted from the patrons. They scoffed at the broken dreams swimming around the diner, scooping up their greasy burgers. But Leo wasn't deterred. The diner was filled with a desperation that felt palpable, almost thick like a fog. He walked over to the dusty piano in the corner, its keys yellowed and chipped, like an elderly man with a million stories hidden in his wrinkles. There was a moment, the kind you can't catch with the eye, where everything felt suspended. A single shocked silence fell over the crowd as he placed his fingers on the keys. Then he played. His fingers moved like lightning, each note piercing through the haze of disbelief. A haunting melody poured out, washing over the diners like a warm wave. Chatter died down. Knives and forks paused mid-bite. The laughter faded, replaced by a ripple of awe. Eyes widened, jaws dropped. The air thickened with tension as the magical strains wrapped around everyone in the diner, tugging at their hearts. At that moment, it was not just a song. It was a cry from the soul. Everyone felt it, the aching loneliness, the flickering hope, but also a sense of wonder. How could this shabby stranger unleash such beauty? Tears glistened in some eyes, as corners of mouths turned up in reluctant smiles. But the shadows outside were restless. The winding streets whispered of danger. As Leo played, the gleam of headlights cut through the diner's windows, and the door creaked open with a strange urgency. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As Leo played on, a shadow stepped inside. Dressed in dark leather, their aura crackled with a sinister energy. The melody swelled, thunderous, as they eyed the piano and the boy as if he were a rare prize. The room shivered with uncertainty. What would happen next? Would the stranger respect the beauty Leo created? Or was there something more foreboding in store for the little diner and its newfound genius? The answer hung in the air, tantalizing and terrifying, leaving everyone on the edge of their seats. The moment felt electric, raw with tension. Leo's fingers flew over the piano keys, igniting a spell that enveloped the diner in an ethereal glow. The strangers, once chatting animatedly over half-eaten meals, now sat enraptured. But that shadow in the doorway, the figure cloaked in darkness, was a tremor in the beauty of the moment as Leo's melody soared. A low chuckle echoed from the corner, the sound thick with menace. The patrons shifted in their seats, eyes darting between Leo and the newcomer. The stranger grinned, revealing sharp teeth, glistening under the flickering lights of Mel's diner. It was a smile that promised trouble. "Nice playing, kid. But what's the price for that melody?" The voice was smooth, oozing sarcasm. It sliced through the soft notes like a knife. Leo's heart raced. He played louder, pouring every ounce of emotion into the keys. Maybe if he played hard enough, he could drown out the dark presence. But it was as if the stranger thrived on the dissonance, feeding off the fear that began to cling to the air like smoke. "What's a genius like you doing in a dump like this?" The figure stepped closer, boots scuffing the floor, the shadows curling around him as if they hungered for something. "You do better in a place where your talent gets you something more than stale fries." The diners were transfixed, caught between the spectacle of brilliance and the menace lurking just a breath away. Some flinched, whispering among themselves. Others laid their hopes in Leo's hands. He had to succeed not just for himself but for all of them who had shared in that moment. "Leave him alone," a woman yelled from the back, her voice strained but defiant. "He's just trying to play." The stranger turned, eyes narrowing, fixating on her as if deciding whether her bravery was admirable or amusing. "And what's your stake here, sweetheart? Don't you see talent like this gets snatched up? He should be on a stage, not playing for scraps." Leo's fingers quivered with uncertainty. The crowd's murmurs filled his mind. Did they want him to keep playing or stop? But he couldn't stop. The music was his voice, and if he silenced it now, everything would fade: his dreams, the connection he had forged in that moment, and all the light that had flickered to life in the dark diner. With a deep breath, Leo pushed through the impending dread. He shifted into a familiar tune, one that echoed his roots, full of heartache and hope, each note a plea reaching for the stars. His passion ripped through the air, daring the stranger to challenge him. In that instant, another round of headlights pierced through the diner's windows, brighter than before. A car screeched to a halt outside, catching the attention of everyone. The shadow turned, surprise fluttering across its features. "Looks like your little performance is about to be interrupted," the stranger hissed, eyes glinting. The diner's door flew open, and in rushed two figures, breathless and wide-eyed. One bore the look of authority, the other anguish. "Leo, we need to go now." The music faltered, panic spreading through him like wildfire. Suddenly, everything felt crucial. The weight of the moment pressed down on his shoulders. He could either keep playing, clinging to the beauty he created, or heed the call to escape whatever was closing in. What would he choose? The melody or the unknown? As Leo's hand hesitated above the keys, he could feel the heat of both paths burning brightly before him. His heart thundered. The choice loomed. Would he chase the music or flee into the darkness? And as the strangers in the diner held their breath, a realization dawned: some melodies come with a price. The tension snapped like a tightrope underfoot as Leo's fingers hovered above the piano keys. He caught a glimpse of the stranger's grin morphing into a sneer. The threat loomed, but so did the entreaty from those two figures now huddled by the door, urgency drenching their faces. "Go!" yelled the man in authority, urgency cracking his voice. "We don't have time." Leo felt that familiar burn in his chest, the fiery instinct that always drove him to play. But the shadows surrounding the stranger were thick and viscous, seeming to vibrate with a life of their own. The diner felt alive, a symphony of gasps and whispers echoing around him. "Is it fame you want?" the shadow asked, stepping closer, the stench of smoke mingling with stale fried food. "Trust me, kid, music like yours deserves a different stage, and I know just the place." Leo swallowed hard. The music had always been his harbor, a sanctum where he could lose himself. Yet here the threat was real, breathing down his neck like an ugly chill. "What's it gonna be, Leo?" The stranger leaned closer, his breath cold against Leo's ear. "You can either fade away with the notes or take a chance on living your dreams." The man at the door took a step forward. "Forget him. We need to go." But the stranger raised a hand. "Wait. Let us not rush things. A deal could be made here, one that might change everything." His gaze sharpened. "How much do you value your talent, Leo? Because you might not have a choice soon." Every heartbeat echoed in Leo's ears. The melody still lingered, hanging in the air like a promise, but the weight of the stranger's words bore down on him. "Stop!" the woman who defended him shouted, her voice shaky but fierce. "You don't know what he can do." The stranger smirked. "Right. And that goes for all of you. You're just as clueless." With a flick of his wrist, he beckoned toward the door. "Why don't we spice things up? Let us make this an audience, a true court for a king of sound." Chaos flickered in the diner as the patrons exchanged worried glances. Some were shifting anxiously, while others seemed entranced by the unfolding drama. A young man near the back stood up, brow furrowed, whispering urgently, "He's dangerous. We have to help him." "I could be the bridge to everything you want," the stranger continued, taunting the crowd. Despite the fear lacing Leo's throat, intrigue flashed through him. The stranger's devil-may-care charisma seeped into his bones, igniting a strange thrill of risk. "Music has its price, kid," the cloaked figure crooned. "What are you willing to give up? This dingy diner? Your safe little life?" As fear surged and swells of panic flared, Leo's resolve solidified. The music thrummed in his chest, louder than the taunts of the stranger, echoing the need to escape into the light. For a brief moment the chaos seemed to slow, and he could hear the quiet murmurs of longing from the diners desperate for something more than stale fries and broken dreams. Determined, he prepared to leap into action, feeling the adrenaline. A single note slipped from his fingertips, a haunting sound enveloping the diner. "Let me take you somewhere you might never return from," the stranger whispered, eyes glinting with promise. Leo's breath caught, tethered between hope and despair. Would he dive deeper into this darkness, risking everything he knew? He caught the eyes of the two figures waiting anxiously at the door, their fear mirrored in his heart. "Just play," the woman urged softly. "Whatever happens, just play." And as he struck the next chord, the diner's time warped, capturing the essence of every moment to come. The choice hung before him, shimmering and elusive. What would arise from the music that promised to unravel his world? Just then the lights flickered, and the walls seemed to pulse with an energy all their own. The moment split. Could he bear the weight of the shadows or escape into the unknown? As the final note faded, everyone held their breath, waiting for what would come next. The moment the last note evaporated, a thick silence flooded the diner. It felt like the whole world was leaning in, straining to hear what would follow. Every eye was fixed on Leo, who could sense the pull of time unraveling at his fingertips. His heart raced, a dull drum echoing in his ears. What lay ahead was invisible, cloaked in shadows just beyond the reach of his sight. Then the stranger stepped back, his sneer fading, replaced by an unsettling curiosity. "Interesting choice, kid. But you're still in the game," he pretended to think, glancing around like an actor gauging his audience. "Let us see, how about we raise the stakes?" Just as those words left his lips, the lights flickered again, and Leo glanced at the two figures by the door. Their eyes were wide, rooted in fear. The man shifted uneasily, while the woman clenched her fists, her face a mask of determination. "Leo," she mouthed, silently pleading for him to understand. The diner was dripping with tension. Leo felt the gravity of their shared fate hanging like a noose around his neck. What asked the audience to witness next? The stranger taunted, his voice smooth, but his eyes were lit with menace. "A little thrill? Or should we dive deeper into the darkness? The choice is yours. Play your heart out." Or his voice trailed off ominously, and with a flourish, he snapped his fingers. The shadows around him pulsated and swirled, morphing into shapes that seemed to pulse with life, wild and hungry. Gasps erupted from the diners as those sinister silhouettes ebbed closer, reaching with skeletal fingers that threatened to consume anything they could grasp. Leo's palms grew clammy against the polished keys. Could he keep his composure in the face of such unyielding pressure? He swallowed, steeling himself. The music that had been his refuge transformed, melding with the raw energy coursing through the diner. Then he struck a chord that rang out like a cannon blast, sharp and penetrating, shattering the oppressive silence. It wasn't just a sound, it was a declaration. With every note that followed, he poured his soul into the performance. Dashing highs collided with deep, sultry lows, weaving a tapestry that summoned memories of joy and heartache. The shadows stopped, inching forward, mesmerized, drawn by the melody that danced around them like a shimmering veil. But the stranger's expression darkened. "Foolish trust in the music, Leo," he said, voice dripping with mockery. "You think the power of your notes will save you? This is no concert hall. You're playing to an audience that hungers." A chill swept through Leo's spine, but he didn't waver. Instead, he leaned deeper into the music, feeling the adrenaline propel him through the crescendo. Notes erupted like fireworks, vibrant and alive, against the backdrop of chaos. Each chord tugged at unseen strings, awakening a wild hope that crackled in the stagnant air. Suddenly, the diner erupted. Patrons erupted from their stupor, some shouting, some pleading with Leo to stop, while others simply soaked in the music like parched earth yearning for rain. For the first time, he glanced sideways at the figures in the doorway. The man nodded, as if catching Leo in a moment where destiny could be rewritten. "Keep going," the man roared, and the woman echoed his approval. "Yes, Leo. Don't stop." Energy coursed through Leo, more potent than anything he had ever known. The music coiled around him, a serpent ready to strike. But just as he ignited the pinnacle of his performance, the shadows lunged. Leo's heart flipped, and for a fleeting moment, All he could hear was the thundering roar of his own pulse. What would he sacrifice to shield everything he held dear? As Claude's hands clawed at the air, he learned more about music, life, and what it meant to face the darkness. Would his next note shatter the shadows or empower them? The answer hung precariously in the air, waiting to shatter like glass on the diner floor. The shadows lunged forward, their elongated limbs stretching greedily. Leo felt a pulse of terror, cold and paralyzing, gripping his heart. But his music kept surging, pushing against the encroaching darkness like a dam about to burst with each note. He painted the air with defiance. The bass throbbed with an emotional weight, while the higher notes sparkled like shards of glass. He no longer played just to entertain. He played to survive. His fingers danced across the keys, blurring together melodies born of fear and hope, the distinct flavors of his past meeting the impending dread. Futile, the stranger sneered. But there was a twitch in his lips. Leo seized on it, feeling the shift. Maybe, just maybe, it was working. He hammered down a series of harmonies that echoed through the diner, wrapping around patrons who had previously stood petrified. People were shouting now, words of encouragement, gasps of awe, but it was the resonance of what Leo created that truly shook the very foundation of the diner. A few brave souls joined in, clapping and stomping. The energy was electric, holding back the shadows, creating a bulwark of sound against their advance. But the stranger's laughter pierced through the cacophony, a sound rich with malice. "You think they're saved?" he roared. "You think that music can protect them? We're just getting started." With a wave of his hand, the shadows twisted violently, contorting into figures that writhed in pain. Leo stumbled back, stricken by their anguish. The shadows weren't mere monsters. They were echoes of lost souls, victims entangled in their own misery. Leo's fingers faltered, confusion clouding his thoughts. How could he fight shadows with light when the light only exposed their pain? The notes he played weren't just a weapon. They were a mirror reflecting the ghosts of the diner's despair. "Keep going," the man shouted insistently. His eyes sparked with determination that ignited a flicker of hope in Leo. "They need you." The music poured from Leo again, but this time it was different, an earnest plea. He thought of the woman, of her clenched fists and fierce spirit, and of the man who stood like a warrior against the oncoming tide. With a deep breath he anchored himself in their conviction, grounding his sound in a coalition of struggle and strength. "Face it," he shouted, pushing the notes forward with conviction. "Face your own pain." As he played, the shadows began to tremble. Leo shifted the melody, fluid yet intense, desperately weaving in threads of forgiveness, understanding, and release. And to his surprise, some of the shadows halted. They hesitated, caught between the echoes of his music and the lingering trauma they held. The diner felt alive, a battleground between despair and hope. For everyone watching, the stakes had become painfully clear. They had a part to play. One by one, patrons began to join in, their voices threading through Leo's melody, striking chords not just of harmony, but of unity. Leo felt something shift. The stranger's confidence faltered, slipping like sand through an hourglass. No, he hissed. "You can't." But it was too late. The diner's energy surged, and Leo realized at that moment his next note could either redeem or doom them. Sweat dripped down his brow as he prepared to strike the final chord, the weight of dozens of souls balancing on the precipice of his artistry. Would he bring forth light or plunge everyone into darkness? The answer loomed dangerously close. Just then, a shattering crash broke through the din. Something had stumbled into the diner. Who or what had just arrived to tilt this precarious fight one way or another? The diner door swung open with a deafening bang, reverberating through the clamor of music and chaos. Everyone turned toward the entrance, breath held tight in their chests. There, framed in the doorway, stood a figure draped in shadow, the dim light behind creating an almost ethereal silhouette. I'm sorry," a voice choked out, breaking the heavy tension. It belonged to a young girl, no more than 10, clutching a tattered stuffed bear under one arm. A few patrons gasped, recognizing the desperate tone in her voice, the unmistakable fear etched across her pale face. Leo's heart sank. In a world already thick with despair, the sight of a child shouldered with fear was unbearable. The shadows recoiled momentarily, drawn to her innocence. Was it possible that she could bring a light of her own? Get away from her. Leo shouted, the music halting abruptly. The notes hung in the air like uncast shadows, the diner now caught between a memory of sound and a sudden, eerie silence. The stranger laughed, a low, silky menace. What can she do against true darkness? He taunted, eyes glistening like glass. Leo sensed the energy shift around him. The shadows were hungry, restless. Please, the girl whispered, eyes darting, not understanding the weight of her words. I heard music. The stranger sneered, his disdain palpable. Music? It cannot save you when shadows collect your tears. His words cut deeper than any blade, resonating with the doubts that had begun to creep into Leo's mind. But the child stepped forward, unfazed by the threat of the dark. It's not just music, she said, voice quaking with determination. It's hope. It kept me going. Those words sparked something in Leo. He remembered that night of sheer loneliness in his childhood, the sanctuary of melodies that became his escape. He looked at the girl and his heart steeled. I need you, Leo called, urging the child to join him. Come, bring that hope here. A subtle shift in the atmosphere radiated. The patrons seemed to lean closer, as if drawn by an unseen force, ready to engage this unexpected ally. The girl nodded, her tiny hand still clutching the bear, and gingerly stepped to the piano. With trembling fingers she reached for the keys beside Leo. What's your name? He asked gently, matching her uncertain energy. Emma, she squeaked, determination softening her voice. Like the flowers, they need water to bloom. Leo couldn't help but smile, the beauty in her innocence flooding him with renewed strength. Then let us water them, Emma. Together. As their fingers touched the keys, Leo filled the notes with urgency, guiding Emma to weave her own melody into his, creating something entirely new. The diner felt alive again, a vibrant tapestry of sound. Patrons who had been paralyzed with fear erupted into movement, joining the rhythm as their spirits ignited with every rising note. Emma's confidence grew as the shadows writhed, caught in a desperate battle against the unyielding light that their music provided. The stranger watched, fury etching sharper lines into his face. No, you can't do this. You're all fools. But the music pushed back. It was a surge of collective defiance. As laughter trailed from wide smiles and voices joined in, Leo could feel the shifting tide. This was not just a fight for survival now. It was a revolution of spirits, confronting the very darkness that sought to snuff them out. Just as they struck a harmonious crescendo, the shadows writhed more violently. The diner's very foundations trembled with chaos and expectation. Then, without warning, a second crash echoed, this time from the kitchen. The doors flung open, yet again disrupting the night. A figure emerged, ragged and weary, but something in their eyes held a dangerous glimmer, as if they held secrets deep enough to turn the tide in an unimagined way. Was this new arrival friend or foe? Leo's pulse thundered as he prepared for whatever would come next, knowing that the stakes were far from settled. The figure from the kitchen stepped into the fray, the light catching on their disheveled hair. A man clearly worn from struggles unseen, stumbled into view. His fingers were calloused and bloodied, as if he had fought his way through the very shadows Leo and Emma were battling against. Yet, his gaze burned brightly, piercing through the gloom that enveloped the diner. Stop playing, he rasped, voice hoarse but filled with a strange urgency. You're only inviting them closer. Who? Leo shot back, heart racing. The approximate safety they had forged with music felt fragile now, and this newcomer seemed to hold a warning. The night it feeds on your sound. The man took a step closer, trembling but resolute. They hear the harmony and stir, growing in strength. Emma, oblivious to the tension, paused her playing, confusion etched on her delicate features. But we have to keep going. The hope? It's here. Leo held her gaze for a moment, torn. Desperation whispered in the corners of his mind, but the worry coursing through the man's words was infectious. Hope can't just be noise. It has to be more. The man continued, glancing back at the still writhing shadows, trying to keep the burgeoning terror from consuming him. The diners shifted uncomfortably, glancing at each other, wary of the darkness creeping closer. The faintest flicker of despair settled amongst them, a palpable cord of anxiety threading through the air. What do you mean? Leo pressed. What do we need to do? The man hesitated, as if weighing trust against necessity. You have to strike a different note. A truth beyond mere melodies. Show them your sorrows and your triumphs. They'll shrink in the light of your honesty. Use your pain like a weapon. Just then the shadows surged again, a thick creeping mass stretching toward the stage. Leo could feel them crawling along the floor, intertwining around his feet like tendrils waiting for a moment of weakness. Emma, can you? He began, but the girl had already focused on the piano once more, her eyes glistening with a fierce determination that momentarily quelled Leo's fears. I can do it. Emma's small fingers danced across the keys, imbuing the air with a new haunting melody. The sound was less of a fight and more of a lament, beautifully sorrowful. She poured heartache and resilience into every note. The stranger tensed at first, but then his expression shifted to one of understanding. That's right. Take your pain and let it sing. Together, create a symphony of truth. As their sounds intertwined and resonated, the shadows hesitated, almost recoiling at the raw potency of the blend. It was connecting hearts to hearts, voices rising in a symphony that stripped bare the fears that loomed. Suddenly, the door burst open again, this time in a flurry of wind that carried dust and an unsettling chill. A figure cloaked in a shroud of mystery stood framed against the light of the street outside. Such lovely music, the newcomer called, a playful lilt covering something darker beneath. But does it truly reach into the abyss? Every person inside froze, caught between the anger of the shadows and the infectious energy radiating from Emma's song. Leo felt a tight knot of unease in his stomach. Who was this new presence, and were they friend or foe? The man from the kitchen stepped forward, fists clenched in ready defiance. Yet their unsteady breath told Leo they all shared the same question. What would be unleashed next? Stay back! Leo shouted, heart racing, wrestling against the music that was winning the battle but losing the war. Would they still be standing when the last note faded? He would find out soon enough. The figure in the doorway took a step inside, the wind swirling around their cloak, nearly swallowing them whole. Their face was obscured by shadow, but a wicked smile carved through the darkness. Leo instinctively moved closer to Emma, the haunting melody still weaving through the diner like a lifeline. Yet the tension thickened when the audience neared the silent edge of panic. Do you think your cries will silence the night? The cloaked figure asked, voice dripping with mockery. Music is so delightful. But it can also be an invitation. They spread their arms wide as if absorbing the chaotic energy vibrating in the room. Leo's heart raced violently in his chest. What do you want? He demanded, each word heavy with defiance. The stranger's laughter echoed off the diner walls, unsettling. I want to show you the true power of the abyss. It's a darkness you can't begin to imagine. Behind Leo, he could feel the unease ripple through the diners. The man from the kitchen met Leo's gaze briefly, their shared understanding illuminating the gravity of the situation. Don't listen to him, the man said, rising to confront the figure. He thrives on fear. What he wants is to make you doubt your strength. Strength? The cloaked figure's voice turned silky, almost charming. Strength is a fleeting illusion, my friend. What you're witnessing is merely the beginning. With a flourish they raised their hand, and the shadows around them slithered closer, dark tendrils inching across the diner floor. Emma's fingers trembled above the piano keys, but the melody transformed. She channeled everything, the fears, the chaos, and poured it into an intricate, raw song that seemed to echo the very essence of pain itself. The room vibrated around them, a resonance too dark yet oddly enthralling. Ah yes, sweet girl, you have a gift. The stranger clapped mockingly, the sound unsettling against the cacophony of Emma's music. But do you think a pretty tune can protect you from the lurking shadows? The man from the kitchen stepped forward again, shaking but unyielding. They can't hurt you if you own your truth. Let her play, Leo. Let her bear her spirit. Leo knew the stakes had escalated. He needed to do something. Emma, he urged, keep going. Don't stop. Use what you feel. With a deep breath, Emma closed her eyes, each note becoming more powerful, flowing through her like a storm. It was no longer a battle. It was a declaration. The shadows seemed to dance around their feet, growing bolder with every sway of the haunting melody. Feel it, Leo shouted, his voice rising above the haunting echoes. Let them know our light. The cloaked figure narrowed their eyes, the grin faltering slightly as moments stretched into eternity. You think that's enough? They lunged forward, drawing closer. It's all a game, my dear musicians. What's waiting in the dark thrives on your vulnerability. A sickening tide washed over Leo. He could see the fear spreading, the diners grappling with their own heartaches surfacing through Emma's song. The very essence of the melody had turned the entire diner into a recognition of their pain, their failures, a raw tapestry of human experience. Emma's notes twisted with every thought, each one binding the shadows closer. "Feel the truth," she cried, her voice rising above the chaos. But then, just as the shadows shuddered, a loud crash echoed from behind the bar. Leo whipped his head around to see a stack of old glasses topple to the floor, their shattering ringing like a ghostly bell. "Enough!" The cloaked figure snarled, the remnants of their calm vanishing. And then it happened. A dark wave surged forth, pooling in the center of the diner like an ominous creature ready to strike. Leo could see fear etched on the faces around him. Would their harmony withstand this new threat? Panic clawed at Leo's throat, desperation mounting with every passing second. Emma's hands hesitated, trembling above the keys. "Emma," he called, we need your song." The air pulsed heavily, tension sharpened to a point as the shadows loomed ever closer. But what more could they unleash next? The shadows writhed, dark tendrils reaching toward Emma, seeking to choke her music into silence. But Leo knew they couldn't let that happen. His heart screamed at him to act, to protect her. "Emma, think of the light," he shouted. "You have to keep playing." With a sudden burst of determination, she pressed her fingers down harder on the piano keys, unleashing a torrential wave of sound that resonated within the walls of the diner. The notes surged, pushing back against the encroaching darkness, lifting the veil of despair that clung to their souls. "That's it," Leo urged, "play louder. Show them our strength." The cloaked figure faltered, narrowing their eyes. "You think sound can banish the darkness? You are fools to believe that." Emma let out a fierce cry, pouring every ounce of her being into the music. Each note felt like a spark in the night, igniting hope within the souls around her. The diners leaned in, drawn like moths to a flame. This was their moment of reckoning, but just when it seemed a safe distance might be created between them and the darkness, the figure dashed forward, their movement swift as a snake. Finally they hissed, "The darkness will relish your vulnerability." Leo felt the cold breath of fear creep up his spine. It was a gut-wrenching realization. If they didn't fight back now, they would be consumed by it all. "Stay with me, Emma," he cried. "You're weaving the fabric of our resilience." Suddenly the air thickened, crackling with energy. The diners braced themselves, faces pale and drawn. The bar's silent liquor bottles seemed to tremble, light glinting off their glass bodies, offering a ghostly defense against the encroaching shadows. The cloaked figure surged but paused, sensing the tide shifting. Emma's melody twisted through the air, a web of sound too intricate and compelling to be easily dismissed. The shadows hesitated, recoiling as if stung. "Do you feel it?" The figure spat, frustration marred their voice. "You can't fight what you don't understand. Keep focusing on the music. Your song is your truth," Leo urged. He could see cracks forming in the shadow wall, thin lines of light pushing through. Then came the loudly echoed scream of an unseen voice. "Get back!" The man from the kitchen roared, holding up a spatula as if it were a sword. Leo turned to see him charging at the figure, a fierce glint in his eyes. Right, Leo thought, momentarily ignited by the unexpected bravery. They were not alone. Together, he shouted, and everyone, diner employees and clientele, moved as one, rallying behind Emma's song as their collective wills lashed out at the encroaching darkness. The cloaked figure paled, their confident sneer faltering. No, this is not how it ends." The shadows writhed furiously, thrashing against Emma's melody, but the sound was a lifeline, a beacon in the storm. A cacophony of their united spirits began to rise alongside her music, so strong it shattered the oppressive silence. Suddenly, with a terrified cry, the figure stretched out their hands toward the shadows, desperately pleading to hold them together. "I am one with the darkness," they screamed, panic seeping into their voice. But the shadows began unraveling, drawn back into the growing light, losing form with every heartbeat, every note Emma played. "Don't stop. We're almost there," Leo urged. Just as the shadows acknowledged their defeat, the cloaked figure slumped, the remnants of their expression barely more than raw emotion now: fear, fury, disbelief. Everything I've ever wanted, you will not take from me. They hissed, their voice barely audible over the melody. Why? What do you want? Leo shouted, but the figure had already begun to dissipate, fading along with the shadows pulled away by the powerful harmonies. Emma played on, pouring every shard of her essence into the final crescendo as the darkness fluttered away, leaving only a trembling anxiety behind. But just when they thought it was over, a chilling whisper echoed through the now still diner, sending shivers down Leo's spine. You've only glimpsed the truth. It's coming for you. And it is not finished yet. An icy dread gripped him. Would they all be free? Or was this just the first of many battles to come? As the soft echo of Emma's final note faded into an eerie silence, Leo felt uncertainty and apprehension suffocating him. What awaited them in the shadows next? The echo of that last note hung in the air, trembling like a fragile spiderweb, catching the collective breaths of everyone in the diner. The oppressive fear that had settled over them began to lift, yet unease lingered, as if they knew the shadows had not been vanquished but merely retreated, obscured in the dark corners of their hearts. Leo turned to Emma, whose eyes shone with the brightness of a survivor, but he could still see the flicker of innocence so easily lost. You did it, he said, his voice choked with gratitude and admiration. You truly did it. She smiled faintly, still holding on to the keys, as if the music still pulsed through her fingertips. Together, she whispered, a bond woven through sound and spirit that they would soon forget. The other patrons emerged from their shock, a mixture of relief and disbelief swirling around them. Conversations ignited slowly, like the dawning sun pushing through the remnants of the night. They began to realize they had faced something terrifying and had emerged stronger. Laughter rippled through the crowd as they recollected their fear and how, united by music and hope, they had weathered the darkness together. But Leo could feel his heart hammering against his ribs, pounding a rhythm that whispered of unfinished stories. He edged towards the door, glancing back to see the man from the kitchen and the woman who had defended him, both searching for a semblance of assurance in the chaos that had just unfolded. Seeing the doubt etched in their faces made Leo's stomach tighten. Then the door creaked open again, sending a chill racing through the diner. A sudden gust of wind swirled in, rustling menus and stirring unease. The familiar silhouette stepped in, this time calmer but still draped in shadows, yet without the malice that had threatened before. The tension in the air was electric, fraying every nerve. Is it over? The newcomer asked softly, concern etching their features. Leo recognized the once ominous figure from earlier, now transformed in the dim light of the diner. We don't know yet, Leo replied, locking eyes with them, but we faced it together. As the stranger stepped further inside, the warmth of the diner spilled around them, illuminating the lingering shadows that attempted to cling to every corner. Then I have come at the right time, they said, voice gentle yet strong. It is always when the darkness fades that we must prepare ourselves for its return. There was a collective gasp from the crowd, as if everyone turned towards this new possibility. Shadows danced in the corners of the diner, whispering secrets they had yet to understand. Will it hunt us again? Emma asked, her small voice wavering but courageous. It always does, the stranger admitted, their eyes flaring with the flicker of understanding. But you've learned something today, haven't you? The real battle isn't just with the darkness outside, but with the shadows inside each of us. Leo felt a tear prick the corner of his eye. This was it, the call to arms. They weren't just defending a little diner from creeping dread. They were reclaiming their stories, their music, their lives. And what do we do? The woman at the back questioned, standing now with renewed strength. How do we unite again? Continue to play, the stranger declared simply, a wicked smile lifting the corner of their lips. Share your pain, your joys, feed the music. Let it flow through you. Let it remind you of the light that still exists, even in the darkest moments. A powerful surge of determination spread through the diner. The tabletops rattled with the shared energy, and a ripple of applause erupted, surging forth like a wave of hope. Leo looked at Emma, nodding. Let us not just hold on to music, let us become a part of it, every single one of us. He moved back to the piano, fingers grazing the keys. Emma joined him once more, her small hands resting alongside his, together crafting a melody that echoed the resilience they had kindled in the fight against despair. Little by little, the diners joined in a chorus, voices layered together. their joy and pain a testament to survival as they sang. The haunted shadows danced outside, swirling and shifting, but Leo understood now they were not foes, but echoes waiting to be witnessed, understood, and transformed. Each person in that diner held a part of the music and a part of themselves tied to the fight. They would rise with every note, every chord reminding them that together they could face whatever darkness threatened to consume them. The journey wasn't finished, but at that moment in that little rundown diner, they had discovered not just solace but strength. This was the beginning of something beautiful. Leo turned to the crowd, his voice steady now, carrying the weight of the undiscovered truth. We are not alone. We will face this together and we will never stop playing. And for the first time the diner did not just resonate with sound. It pulsed with life, hope, and the light of a new beginning. But wait. Before you go, this is your moment. You need to subscribe now to stay with us on this journey. Don't miss any of the exclusive stories coming your way. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Leo's journey. We want to hear what you think. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need this uplifting conclusion. Let us keep the music alive together.